when she was 5 or 4 or 3, that would have been unimaginable. But at 6 and 7, that's like a thing. And so at 10 or 11 or 15, I have no idea what she's going to be capable of. And so when you're sitting there at 2 and you're getting these diagnoses and you're thinking nonverbal, you really don't know what that's going to mean down the road. Hey guys, so it's Thursday. Hopefully I'm posting this on a Thursday. It's April and I'm talking about autism today. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is if you have a little kid and you are just getting their diagnosis. And this one is more for people who get the diagnosis when their kids are little. So over the years, I've known a lot of people who've had like a child get diagnosed at like 2, which is not like a super unusual age. I mean, it is an early age. It's a good age. It's a good age to get diagnosed and start getting therapies at, and start getting occupational therapy, start getting speech, start getting sports, parents start getting training and education. I mean, it's an awesome age for that to happen. And I remember when I first started blogging about autism, I would get a lot of comments from parents who would say, I have a 2-year-old with nonverbal autism. Even then, it struck me as an odd way of putting it, because at 2, there's no way to really know what your child's autism is going to be like going forward. I mean, you really don't. You really, really don't. And I mean, I've been there. I've been there when Maggie was diagnosed and what life was like when she was 2. I mean, 2 was the rough year. 2 is the year when I think of Maggie when she was 2. 2 was the roughest year. Maggie's 2-year-old year was a year that I survived and I got through. And it was really, really hard. And it was all about surviving. And I don't think I had a moment to myself. Like, I literally did not do anything for myself. I did not leave the house by myself. I was not away from that child because I was afraid that she was somehow going to kill herself. Because, like, literally, because she was a danger to herself. And I spent that year focused on keeping her alive. And because she was just fearless and strong and into everything and breaking things. Everything was broken. I mean, she just not on purpose. She wasn't like a destructive child who broke things to break things, but she was just strong, and she would, like, if something moved, she would start shaking it, and she would shake things until they broke. But it wasn't like maliciously. It wasn't like she was angry. It was just like, oh hey, this gate can move. Let me shake it until I shake the screws out of the wall. Oh look, this fireplace has a leg on it. It moves a little bit. I wonder if I can get it to move more. Oh look, the iron leg just broke off in my hand. And you're like, oh my gosh. Needless to say, I will admit that a piece of my desperation for getting Tessie in therapy as early as I possibly could was that I wanted to give her the tools to communicate and to deal with her frustrations as early as possible, and I wanted to have the tools also to communicate with her as early as possible in hopes of avoiding the frustrations and situations that we dealt with in that 2nd to 3rd year. That is part of it. So I get that 2nd year can be really, really tough. However, okay, so my point of what I'm trying to get around to is that when you're in that 2nd year, I want to say, like, it's not static. Just because you have a 2-year-old with autism, who's been diagnosed with autism, who doesn't talk, it doesn't mean that they're not going to talk forever. I mean, yes, there are 2-year-olds who have autism who don't talk when they're adults, but a lot of 2-year-olds who don't talk when they're 2, who don't talk when they're 3, who don't talk when they're 4, do talk when they're 5 or 6. Like, a lot of children, it's a developmental delay, and a lot of kids and a communication delay. And so a lot of the kids that don't talk when they're littler do talk when they're older. And I mean, it may not be perfect speech, like Maggie's speech isn't perfect, but it definitely has improved hugely. I mean, from like basically no communication at 2, 3, 4, very little. At 4, she had like lists of words where if I pointed to something, she may be able to identify it, to being able to actually like maybe tell me something with words at 7. So like nonverbal at 2 doesn't mean nonverbal forever. It might, but it doesn't guarantee it. And a lot of kids who are nonverbal at 2 aren't going to be nonverbal when they're older. So like, I guess that's my point. My point is that I see a lot of parents who get their diagnoses when their kids are toddlers, who are terrified by what they're hearing when they're toddlers. And that's always what I want to tell them. The thing that I can't stress enough is that it isn't static. Functioning isn't even static. I mean, throughout a week, much less years. And just because you have a diagnosis right now, I mean, yeah, you're on the when you are on the spectrum, you are on the spectrum. But just because you have a kid that's nonverbal now doesn't mean they're going to be nonverbal forever. It might, but it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily mean. You kind of have to wait and see. And that's kind of both the hard part and the beauty of this life, because you can't live too much in the future. So I am a big planner. I love lists. I could spend, before I had kids especially, I could spend hours and hours just sitting and making lists of everything, places I wanted to go, things I wanted to do. I could list anything. I had notebooks and notebooks from like junior high, high school, college, after college, of just lists. Tons and tons of useless lists. It's kind of my thing. My parents would tease me about it. Paul would tease me about it. I love lists. One of the things about autism is that in our family is that I really can't plan too far ahead. I mean, in a way I can. There are some things that require planning in advance and being a responsible adult. But in other ways, I mean, I don't know what next year is going to look like for Maggie, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. I couldn't have imagined at 2 what she was going to be like when she was 7. I couldn't have imagined when she was 2 what she was going to be like when she was 5. And I definitely could not imagine what she was going to be like when she was 7. When she was 5, I could not have imagined her in a classroom like the one she's in now at a regular school. Like, there was no way I could not imagine her in a regular classroom. I thought she was, if we put her in school, she was going to have to be in like a special ed school. I was really, really sure that was going to be, and even that, it was hard for me to picture her being in a special ed school. And now she's in a regular school where she actually has a regular classroom that she is like her classroom, that they're trying to slowly like integrate her and have her spend more and more time in her general ed classroom, even though she has the autism classroom where she does most of her work and spends most of the day, where she has all of her therapists and supports. When she was 5 or 4 or 3, that would have been unimaginable. But at 6 and 7, that's like a thing. And so at 10 or 11 or 15, I have no idea what she's going to be capable of. And so when you're sitting there at 2 and you're getting these diagnoses and you're thinking nonverbal, you really don't know what that's going to mean down the road. And so, yeah, that's a little from someone who isn't totally, I mean, I don't have grown-up kids, but I'm a little bit farther down the road. And I think that's something that would have been helpful for me to know when I was there, seeing the letters come home that said like more severely affected than other children on the spectrum, and getting results back that these things aren't static. They don't stay the same from year to year, from day to day sometimes. I think that is probably one of the things that having Maggie and Tessie has helped me with as a mom, is kind of letting go of the plans, letting go of my nature to plan everything. Not that I would have been like planning my kids in the same way, but I have no idea what the future holds for for any of my kids, but especially for Maggie and Tessie. I don't know if Maggie is going to someday be a professor at MIT, or if she's going to be living in the bedroom in our basement for the rest of her life, or if she's going to be someplace in the middle. I have no idea. I don't know if she's going to be independent out on her own. I don't know if she's going to be living with us for the rest of her life, the rest of our lives. So we wait and see. So that concludes this post. If you are a parent that just got a diagnosis hang in there. If you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me. I know that it can be kind of just like a totally hectic time, but I hope that's helpful because I feel like it's something that that could have helped me during that time. Because I know it can be just like, I know it can be a totally scary time, and you get all these results and it feels like these things are set in stone and you're being told all these things about your kid, but developmental delays are developmental delays, and just because something is the way it is right this moment doesn't mean that's how it is forever. And as your kids get older, a lot of times those delays get less and less, like because development slows down for the other kids, and so your kid kind of has more of a chance to catch up. I mean, it's not going to be the same for everybody. It is different for every single kid, but I've heard a lot of stories about older kids who are on the spectrum, like older teens who have a chance to catch up even more as they reach adulthood. We'll see how that plays out with us as our kids get older too. It's always an adventure. I'm sure it will continue to be one, and I never know what to expect anyways, which is part of the adventure. See, this is good for me. Throw out all those notebooks of lists. Mom, Dad, you're packing up the house. They're already on the truck on the way to the dump, aren't they? I know there's no way they're making it on the moving van. 1,000 notebooks. Sorry. Anyways, that is it. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.